In the year 1878, I took my degree of Doctor of Medicine of the University of London and proceeded for surgeons in the army in India. There I was struck on the shoulder by a Jezail bullet. I naturally gravitated to London.
Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. We came here on business. My friend here wants to take diggings, and as you were complaining that you can get no one to go halves with you, I thought I had better bring you together.
I have my eye on a suite in Baker Street, which would suit us down to the ground. You don't mind the smell of strong tobacco, I hope?
I always smoke ships myself. I keep a bullpup, and I object to rows because my nerves are shaken.
Do you include violin playing in your category of rows?
It depends on the player. A well-played violin is a treat for the gods. A badly played one...
Oh, that's all right. I think we may consider the thing as settled. That is, if the rooms are agreeable to you.
We met next day as he had arranged and inspected the rooms at number 221B, Baker Street. His zeal for certain studies was remarkable, and within eccentric limits his knowledge was so extraordinarily ample that his observations have fairly astounded me. His ignorance was as remarkable as his knowledge. My surprise reached a climax, however, when I found incidentally that he was ignorant of the Copernican theory. The earth travelled around the sun.
You appear to be astonished. Now that I do know it, I shall do my best to forget it.
To forget it?
You see, I consider that a man's brain originally is like a little empty attic. It is a mistake to think that that little room has elastic walls and can distend to any extent. Depend upon it, there comes a time for when every addition of knowledge you forget something that you knew before.
But the solar system!
What the deuce is it to me?
I see that I have alluded above to his powers upon the violin. Leaning back in his armchair of an evening, he would close his eyes and scrape carelessly at the fiddle which was thrown across his knee. Clearly they reflected the thoughts which possessed him.
I have to use this room as a place of business. Well, I'm a consulting detective, if you can understand what that is. Here in London we have lots of government detectives and lots of private ones. When these fellows are at fault, they come to me, and I manage to put them on the right scent.
I wonder what that fellow is looking for.
You mean the retired sergeant of Marines?
Brag and bounce, I thought to myself. He knows that I cannot verify his guess.
For Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
May I ask, my lad, what your trade may be?
Commissionaire, sir.
And you were?
A sergeant, sir. Royal Marine, Light Infantry, sir.
How in the world did you deduce that?
I could see a great blue anchor tattooed on the back of the fellow's hand. That smacked of the sea. He had a military carriage, however, and regulation side whiskers. There we have the Marine. He was a man with some amount of self-importance, a middle-aged man. He had been a sergeant.
Wonderful.
Commonplace.
This is the letter which I read to him. Dear Mr. Sherlock Holmes, there has been a bad business during the night at 3 Lauriston Gardens, off the Brixton Road. There had been no robbery, nor is there any evidence as to how the man met his death. Tobias Gregson.
Gregson is the smartest of the Scotland Yarders. There will be some fun over this case. We may as well go and have a look. Come on. Stop, driver, stop.
We were still 100 yards or so from it, but he insisted upon our alighting, and we finished our journey upon foot.
I think we have done all that can be done. It's a queer case, though, and I know your taste for such things.
You did not come here in a cab?
No, sir.
Nor Lestrade?
No, sir.
Then let us go and look at the room. You are sure that there is no wound?
He asked, pointing to numerous gouts and splashes of blood which lay all around.
Positive.
Then, of course, this blood belongs to a second individual, presumably the murderer, if murder has been committed. You can take him to the mortuary now. There is nothing more to be learned.
Gregson had a stretcher and 4 men at hand. As they raised him, a ring tinkled down and rolled across the floor. "There's been a woman here. It's a woman's wedding ring."
This complicates matters.
What did you find in his pockets?
We have it all here. Russian leather card case with cards of Enoch J. Drebber of Cleveland. 2 letters, one addressed to E. J. Drebber and one to Joseph Stangerson.
Have you sent to Cleveland?
We telegraphed this morning.
"Look at that!" Across this bare space there was scrawled in blood-red letters a single word: R-A-C-H-E. The writer was going to put the female name Rachel, but was disturbed before he or she had time to finish. You mark my words, when this case comes to be cleared up, you'll find that a woman named Rachel has something to do with it.
I really beg your pardon. It bears every mark of having been written by the other participant in last night's mystery. I have not had time to examine this room yet, but with your permission I shall do so now.
What do you
think of it, sir?
I shall be happy to give you any help I can. In the meantime, I should like to speak to the constable who found the body. Can you give me his name and address? Come along, Doctor. We shall go and look him up. I'll tell you one thing, the murderer was a man. He was more than 6 feet high and smoked a trichinopoly cigar. He came here with his victim in a 4-wheeled cab.
If this man was murdered, how was it done?
Poison. One other thing, Lestrade. Rache is the German for revenge. So don't lose your time looking for Miss Rachel.
Sherlock Holmes led me to the nearest telegraph office, whence he dispatched a long telegram. He then hailed a cab and ordered the driver to take us to the address given us by Lestrade. "You amaze me, Holmes. Surely you're not as sure as you pretend to be of all these particulars which you gave?"
There's no room for a mistake. What I observed on arriving there was that a cab had made 2 ruts with its wheels close to the curb. Why, the height of a man can be told from the length of his stride. Now that writing was just over 6 feet from the ground. I gathered up some scattered ash from the floor. I have made a special study of cigar ashes.
Until we came to number 46, the door of which was decorated with a small slip of brass on which the name Rance was engraved.
Presently, maybe about 2 or a little after, I was right down the Brixton Road. Suddenly, the glint of a light caught my eye. Now, I knew that them 2 houses in Lauriston Gardens was empty, so I went into the room and I saw...
Was the street empty then?
I've seen drunk so crying drunk as that cove. He was at the gate when I came out.
There's a half-sovereign for you. The man whom you held in your hands is the man who holds the clue of this mystery. The blundering fool.
I'm rather in the dark still. Why should he come back to the house after leaving it?
The ring, man, the ring. That was what he came back for. A study in Scarlet, eh? There's the scarlet thread of murder running through the colourless skein of life. And our duty is to unravel it, and isolate it, and expose every inch of it. Tra-la-la-li-ra-li-ra-lay.